Good morning, everybody. I'd like to give you a summary of the FOHTI-2022 US2TS panel discussion. So this discussion happened in September 30th and at the Lansing University of Michigan State. The topic is Towards Fair, Trustworthy, and Harmonized Semantic Resources. The moderators is me and Gary. We have Pascal, Chris Mongo, Ramona as our panelist. The discussant has approximately a little bit above 25 people online and in person. So this is our pictures, seeing our discussion. And Ramona talks, she's from Critical Path. So she talks about what she needs to make the individual level data fair. And her points is, first, she needs fewer ontologies. Second, the mapping interoperable terminologies are really complex, and she needs terms with IRIs and semantics. And she also needs open access terminologies. More importantly, she mentioned that she needs people because she cannot hire ontologists, but she successfully trained from the internal human resources. And research funding is really hard to get for training ontologists just only. And the community is a big challenge. Community is all about consensus there. And she said that there should be one ontology. So this is more a people and community issue, but not the technical issues. Next, Pascal talked about his understanding of fair and trustworthy and what his solutions are. So his point is that first, he pointed out that US and the EU are different. EU definitely has trainings, and US seems more concentrating on biomed domain. And by definition, an ontology should be fair and trust. The question is how to change the way that we develop ontologies so far. And his answer is that we should use ontology design patterns, which is a set of interconnected modules like Lego. And we should reuse modules and the patterns as templates to develop ontology. That can be a solution for ontology to be fair and trust. Chris Mongo presented his example in system biology and the Foundry, the layers of Foundry interoperability. And the Foundry community also established the rules, principles for how do we trust an ontology. So his point is that ontology used in life sciences stemming from the Go ontology, which is extremely widely being used. And in Go, definition of a gene is still not fully agreed to this day. There is a need to bring ontology to data, he realized. The link ML developed in his lab is used as a data exchanging standard. So we then move to the fantastic group discussions, and we break out in a couple of interesting questions, topics I will show you later now. So first is we discussed how to bring ontology to domain experts. They're saying that the best data management is that people don't know what is there. Same as ontology. The system do not need to tell that ontology is used. And there is also funding and policy problems to bring ontology to domain expert. We do need an interface. For example, the knowledge graph front. Now industries comes into this corner. The schema diagram is really a good vehicle to communicate with domain experts. And some other developers point out that ontology really scares primary researchers, but we need to let them know that ontology is not just hierarchy, but also semantics. And all the scientists in the lab should receive some kind of training on good data generation practices and ontologies. So others also talked about how to make ontology visible to end users. In fact, the domain experts actually benefit from the intellectual process of modeling a domain ontologically. It helps them to go through and think about the field and really expand their minds in a way that they haven't thought about it before. So we want the word when ontology is taught in high schools. What does it mean by using ontologies? We discussed that too. Hierarchy of ontology is really useful to end users. Community uses ontology as a standard. Ontology is very useful, helpful to integrate data from diverse sources. Different fields use ontology quite differently. There is a use for standardized definition. There are use for a schema of the knowledge graph. And the types of use cases will determine the types of ontologies and the approach to develop an ontology. So we also ask, are the use cases necessary for ontology? There are people using internet as an example. Internet does not have use cases. So does ontology. But ontology really needs to go with data. Ontology most likely like a schema for data. And for data analysis purposes, analysis relevant data integration and curation are really intensive processes. The machinery of ontology knowledge graph RDF can really help to reduce the cost for the data preparation and to make these steps more effective. We discussed the CDE problems at NIH. Susan Gregorick, the director of Office of Data Science and Strategy, asked that if NIH is creating a monster, that each big initiative will create their own CDEs, and then later we still need huge efforts to harmonize those CDEs. John Gravely gave the example of REDX. So the REDX project, various data centers were quickly established because of the COVID response. And then the data hub was founded much later that has to harmonize more than 500 CDEs or data dictionaries. They first normalized the CDEs representations, and NLM helped to find matchable concepts. Then there's a very small set left for human to identify. This repeated processes is observed everywhere. So the question is, who will turn them into useful tools? And we also discussed that CDEs are similar with treated as controlled vocabulary. As ontologists, we should advocate that a little tech added to controlled vocabulary will be a more useful ontology later. And the OBO Foundry shows a prospective way rather than the retrospective way to mapping. It really pays massive. And ontology works in a way that it constrains the meanings and the vocabularies, and the harmonization can take advantage of ontology axioms. The formal logic just constrains the meanings, but not capturing the definitions. There is also discussed that the ontology alignment is not successful because of very little documentations. So it is pointed out that ontology is not only on all file, but all file plus documentation. So we have other thoughts such as ontology and the CDMs are similar things. We should develop micro or little semantic model so that ontology can help to translate the data schema who doesn't have any semantics. We should to identify the bottom level semantics for the data elements so that we can find a sweet spot between the data elements and the rich semantic ontologies. There's a discussion on a concept about ontology fabric building. So we know that no model is absolutely correct, but there are multiple views can be used for this one model. Instead of advocating for one ontologies, we should encourage building more ontologies following good principles, because Again, there is no one absolute correct ontologies. By building those fabric small ontologies that reflect the understanding of the concepts at that time, we then can have enough base to develop a master ontology that is closer to the truth. This is more like a democratization of data and model. We also asked the bio team to present us their findings of comparison of industry data capacities. And we found out that the data management is primarily missing in biomed research. FAIR supposedly to solve that problem, but FAIR gets too complex. Analogy with the internet that pointing the address to computers, the data-oriented network architecture was proposed where each piece of data contains address and pointing to each other. So ontology works seamlessly as the conceptual mapping of the data, and it can point to where data belongs within a domain. We then discussed about the risk of from the experts' thoughts, talk about the risk of the NIH data management and sharing policy. First risk is that researchers are not experienced at all. And NIH should not make the same mistakes as in clinical, that they quickly mandate adoptions of standards where people are not ready. And experts suggest that NIH should focus on interoperability and should not dictate exact data and models to use, but NIH should provide principles and guidances. Here I bring up the FAIR and the trust principle for you to refresh. And thank you so much. This, the whole panel discussion is covered. You can find on the YouTube through this link. Thank you.